Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm Alamir Atrero, a Director of Higher Education Initiatives here at CALE. We're so glad that you've joined us for this session, Creative Curricular Solutions for Adult and Non-Traditional Learners. Before we get started, I'd like to share a couple quick housekeeping tips. Attendees are muted, but please introduce yourself and meet fellow attendees in the chat box. While you will not be able to see each other's videos like a typical Zoom, we do encourage you to engage with each other in the chat. I will be moderating the chat and helping to funnel questions to our speakers. At the end of this session, please make sure that you complete the survey that's attached to this session. Your insight is really helpful for us to help shape future content, and we thank you for your participation. And so with that, I'd like to welcome our speakers to begin the presentation.
Thank you so much, Elmir, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We're really excited to talk about some of the creative curricular solutions that the University of Wisconsin-Parkside has implemented over the last handful of years in service of our adult and non-traditional learners. So with that, I will go ahead and start introductions. My name is Dr. Dana Roders, and I serve as UW-Parkside's Adult Student Program Manager. This position exists in our Professional and Continuing Ed unit. I'm also one of several staff members in our Center for Adult and Returning Students, which is a center that we're going to talk about a little bit more as this presentation goes on. Mita, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, everyone. So my name is Mita Banerjee. I am an associate professor of sociology, and I also serve as the director of the sociology online degree completion program. And in that role, I work with adult students, and I also work with my wonderful colleagues here, Krista Adams from the Office of Admissions, and also Krista Cruz and Dana Roders, in terms of working with adult students to meet their needs. Lots of needs in terms of prior credit for learning, and some of these that we will be talking about later in the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Krista Cruz, and I'm the Director of Professional and Continuing Education at Parkside. And excuse me, I'm basically oversee the non-credit and some of the credit-bearing multidisciplinary adult-facing programs at Parkside that we'll talk to you about. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat that we'll talk to you about today. Thank you.
And I'm Krista Adams. I am the adult student enrollment counselor, and I work within the admissions department. That's where I'm located, but I am a member of the professional and continuing education unit and also represent the Center for Adult and Returning Students.
So Krista, I am going to turn it over to you to give a quick overview of our presentation. And what I would like to share with our attendees is one of our priorities.
Hello, sorry, I realized that we actually start at 9:10. So we did a quick practice run through, I guess.
We did a practice round, and no problem. Okay.
Good, maybe I'll be able to clear my throat.
I was going to say that gives me a little more coffee time over here, which is not bad.
So sorry.
Oh my gosh, don't be. I love a practice round.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I was wondering because I was in the attendee hub and I wasn't seeing folks in the hub.
They must have switched it, right? Because I'm pretty certain it was originally starting right at.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So you're not, this is not a you thing. This is a last minute shift, I think. But that's great. Yeah, thank you for stopping us. That's very helpful, actually.
No problem.
Yeah, it does let us clear our throats a little bit.
I know, that's my partner enough.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Alamira Trero, a Director of Higher Education Initiatives here at Kale. We're so glad that you've joined us for this session, Creative Curricular Solutions for Adult and Non-Traditional Learners. Before we get started, I'd like to share a couple of quick housekeeping items. Attendees are muted, but please introduce yourself and meet your fellow attendees in the chat box. While you will not be able to see each other in your videos like a typical Zoom, we do encourage you to engage with each other in the chat. I will be moderating the chat and helping to funnel questions to our speakers. At the end of this session, please make sure to complete the survey that's attached to this session. Your insight really does help us to shape future content, and we thank you in advance for your participation. And with that, I'd like to welcome our speakers to begin the presentation.
Thank you so much, Almir, and thank you all so much for joining us today. We are really excited to present our session on creative curricular solutions for adult and non-traditional learners. What we'll really be focusing on are some of the initiatives that we've implemented more recently at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. And our goal for you today is to hopefully be able to walk away with a sense for how we've made some of these changes and why, and also with maybe some deliverable items that you can bring back to your own institutions and your own teams to think about what works for you. So there we go. Sorry about that. My name is Dana Roders, and I am UW Parkside's Adult Student Program Manager. This is a position that exists in our Professional and Continuing Education unit, and I'm also one of several staff members who represents our Center for Adult and Returning Students, which is a center that we're going to talk about a little bit more as the presentation progresses. Mita, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Yes, hi everyone. So my name is Dr. Meeta Banerjee. I'm an associate professor of sociology, and I also serve as the academic director of the sociology online degree completion program. And in that role, I work with adult students, and I also work with my wonderful colleagues here to meet the needs of our adult learners.
Hi. Hi, I'm Krista Cruz, and I'm the Director of Professional and Continuing Education at Parkside. And we primarily have served non-credit students, but we have expanded into some of the credit-bearing programs and supporting those adult learners through credit-bearing programs. So we'll talk a little bit more about that today.
I'm Krista Adams. I'm the Adult Student Enrollment Counselor, and I am located in our admissions office. I'm a member of the Professional and Continuing Education unit. I also represent the Center for Adult and Returning Students that, again, we'll be talking about here in a minute.
Krista, I'm going to turn it over to you to give a snapshot of the structure of our presentation.
Of course, thank you. So we're going to start off with a little information about University of Wisconsin-Parkside, so you have a better understanding of why we moved in these directions, as well as so you can understand how your institution might compare to Parkside. Then we'll talk about our 2 adult serving centers that were created within the past 5 years or so, the Center for Adult and Returning Students and the Center for Multidisciplinary Curricula. After a review of those 2 centers, we'll be talking about some initiatives that the Center for Adult and Returning Students has been working on and moving forward with. And then we'll start to talk about our next steps for adult student initiatives, both at Parkside and at your own institutions. So before we get into all of that information, I invite you to do a little self-evaluation. Think about how your institution has incorporated adult student initiatives and share your responses in the chat, as well as your reasoning if you'd like. We're hoping that you are able to take some of the information or maybe even relate to some of our challenges that we go through and can learn from what we have experienced and apply them to your institution, your place of business, to have a positive impact on adult learners. So I'll just give you a minute to think and reflect and then we can move forward. Okay, Dana, if you want to go to the next slide. So here is a photo of University of Wisconsin Parkside. You can see that it is nestled in a county park called Petrifying Springs. And I just have to mention that in the fall, our campus is beautiful. You can imagine all of those trees colored with fall colors. So it is a small campus. You can pretty much see all the buildings here, but it is full of I'm sorry. It's a small campus, but we have a lot of students and a lot of great programs. Next slide, Dana. So you can see that Parkside is located in between Milwaukee and Chicago. And this allows for a lot of opportunities for our students related to internships and career options and career availability. You can see that our total enrollment hovers around 4,000 students. And our adult students are about 20% of that. We at Parkside consider adult students to be ages 25 and up. However, many of our students do fit the non-traditional profile because they are working full time. They are caring for adults in their family. They are caregivers. They have children. So many of our students, they fit into that profile, and that is one of the reasons that we have we've made some of these. We've decided to focus on these initiatives. We have a large percentage of commuter students. Many students live in the area, and it's important for them to be able to balance their busy lives with education. Next slide.
All right. So I'm going to take it from here. And Jonathan, I think your name was Jonathan. You had a great question, and I hope Krista covered that in her in sharing more about our student demographics at Parkside. So many, as you saw in the previous slide, that our adult learners, doesn't look like a lot. It's not the majority of our students like it is at some other campuses, right? But as Krista mentioned, many of our adult students fit that adult student characteristic profile. And they are faced with so many more challenges and barriers than other traditional age students at other campuses. And we know that by talking to our students. Most of them work, they commute. And so we really took a look at that. We started to think about this probably, and Mita's been here too, as long as I have about 7, 8 years ago, really started looking at the adult student and trying to really define what that meant for our campus. And it's tricky, because it's not just an age, right? So there's a lot of other things to take into consideration. So we started looking at that. We also knew that the adult student demographic would continue to grow over time. That's where there's a lot of potential for growth in the future. So we really started to look at this and think about developing an infrastructure to support adult learners on our campus. So we started including that in our strategic planning. So one of the big changes that took place at that time, about 7 years ago, was that the continuing education office would change our reporting structure, and we started to report to the provost office directly. So we had a lot of continuing education, had a lot of support from our provost and our chancellor to really move forward with some adult student initiatives, some of that planning. And so we also formed an adult student initiatives committee, which Mita was part of at that time. And Krista and Dana were not here yet. So we formed this committee to really think about some of the things that maybe were happening on campus and some of the things that we could kind of maybe work on, restructure it, make it better, or even some things that didn't exist. So we started to think about all of that. So we were able to implement a few new initiatives in the last 5 years. And one of those was the Center for Adult and Returning Students. We thought that this would be a good place to start, where a program would have an identity for students and for faculty, a place for, you know, these adult students to come, but also faculty to find resources to support adult students. So we first hired an adult student enrollment counselor, who is Krista, that's here with us today. And we had another one before her, but anyway, it was 5 years ago that position was launched. And we were getting calls from adult students, and we knew that they were taking more time. There's a little bit more hand-holding. They asked some very unique questions that admissions really couldn't handle, and the response time had to be quicker, things like that. So we really we decided to put this pre-enrollment counseling in place, and Krista will get into more detail about that a little later. And then we looked at CPL on our campus, which is credit for prior learning. And that was happening in pockets throughout the campus. And we thought, you know, it's not being very effective. There are not many students that are benefiting from this resource. And it's just such a huge benefit, you know, financially and for time, and even building confidence for our students, that we thought, you know, maybe we should focus on this a little bit more than we are. And we decided to centralize that and continuing that within the CARS programs. So we hired an adult student program manager, again, which is Dana, who's here with us today. And she oversees the CPL process. She liaises with faculty and works to get more faculty buy-in for CPL. We all know that that's a challenge. She provides workshops and training and best practices, assessment, and also provides other professional development resources. And is just that expert on our campus. She really champions CPL, and people know to go to Dana for that support. And again, and of course, an important part of this role is to support our adult students who are seeking CPL as an option. And she works with them through, you know, providing a portfolio course, an online course. She provides the instruction and also guidance for developing portfolios with the students. So that's a very time-intensive process. So she'll get a little bit more into CPL later and some of the other work that she does. And then last year, we had a pleasant surprise. We applied for a grant through the Department of Education TRIO programs in 2021. We received an acceptance letter in early last summer, I believe it was, to implement an educational opportunity center at Parkside. So if you're not familiar with EOCs, they focus on the adult learner, low income, first generation students. And there's some other demographics buried in there, but that is the overarching demographic. They help provide some kind of counseling and resources for adult learners who are seeking opportunities in higher education. So that was a really nice addition to CARS on our campus. And we can go to the next slide. So the next, another initiative that we were able to implement, which was a little more challenging and a little different than what you might find on other campuses, but we needed a place as we expanded our work in the credit area for credit-bearing programs. We needed a place where we would have some curricular authority for these programs. So we launched a Center for Multidisciplinary Curricula in the fall of 2022. We had to move that through our governance process. Faculty Senate voted. Mita will talk a little bit more about some of the perspectives from faculty and challenges, but we were able to get this through. And really what the center does is it provides curricular authority and oversight for the development of new, innovative, multidisciplinary programs for adult learners that are not currently being offered in colleges. And also a place where we might repackage some of the existing programs. So it might not necessarily be new, maybe programs or certificates that are in existence that we can reformat, repackage, maybe, you know, for example, stackable certificates or something like that, credit-bearing certificates that are non-degree seeking individuals. So we thought that we needed a place to house these programs. And so that is the purpose of the CMC. And so it comprises 11 members, 9 of whom are faculty, and they represent each of the 4 colleges on our campus. And so again, taking that multidisciplinary approach, it's really important to have representation from each of the colleges. And then we have 2 academic staff members who, represent professional and continuing education, which is me, and then the Center for Adult and Returning Students, which is Dana Roders. So we are voting members on that committee, and we're doing some really exciting work that we'll be talking about here just in a minute. I have one more slide just to give you kind of a visual on how the structure looks on our campus. So professional continuing education reports, as I said, directly to the provost's office, and the center, the CMC, is also housed within the provost's office. We work together. We both work, both entities work on program development, and the professional continuing ed, we provide the administrative support for programs, technical support, project management, those types of things. CMC, again, curricular authority. And really the faculty working to, redesign programs, things like that. And then we have the Center for Adult and Returning Students. That is where, as professional and continuing education expanded out from just offering non-credit programs into that credit-bearing world, that's where we house our credit kind of bearing program work. So we have programs in CARS, such as the Associates in Arts and Sciences. We have some independent learning courses and other programs that Mita's going to talk about with you. I think I'm going to turn it over to Mita right now to do that, but this is how we're structured.
So yes, as Krista so eloquently mentioned, the goal of CMC has always been to offer innovative curriculum that is not being represented in the colleges. And so what we found was, when we were looking at national statistics, the national average bachelor's degree completion rate is 32%. And when we looked at the Wisconsin number, it is about 30%. And then we further drilled down to look at the Racine and Kenosha numbers. The Racine and Kenosha counties are the ones that we serve. And so those numbers were even lower. So Racine has a bachelor's degree completion rate of 25%, and Kenosha is 26%. So clearly we saw a need. We saw that, we are able to leverage our educational resources to meet the industry needs of our, community. So why not do something like that? So that's how we kind of, started thinking about offering curriculum that is probably, cutting edge and also newer. And so the interdisciplinary certificates that we have been offering or started offering, we reformatted some of those, like Krista mentioned, and we also are exploring stackable certificate design options. So for example, we already have small, 4 credit courses that constitute a certificate, so 12 credits in total. So certificates in business fundamentals, certificates in data science and project management. So industry professionals can take these certificates, and these are all, credit bearing certificates, and they can count towards a business management degree. And similarly, if you think about, some of the other certificates that we have, and again, all of these certificates are like 9 to 12 credits. And child and family advocacy, diversity and inclusion, or our certificate in social justice. These can count towards a sociology degree. Psychology is also very popular on our campus, and a lot of our students are interested in mental health skills and child and adolescent development. So we have created short certificates that then industry professionals can take and then go towards, if they want to pursue a bachelor's degree or a master's degree program. Dana, you want to move on to the next one? Yes. So what we have done is, we have reformatted our currently offering certificates, and we are also offering new online non-degree graduate certificates. These are brand new certificates that we will be offering in the spring semester. And if you look at some of these, one, like we know that, more buying and selling happening in the cyberspace, the concept of marketing has completely we have to reimagine that. And so we are offering digital marketing analytics certificate, digital marketing management certificate. So these are all kind of very new, new courses, new concepts. Also something, fintech is an emerging field where we are we went to our faculty in the finance department, in computer science, to offer these brand new certificates like fintech transformation and emerging technologies, where they are going to be, adult learners will be learning about blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, digital tokens. So basically, the goal of this center is to offer programs where we are, attracting our, professionals in Southeastern Wisconsin to come and take our credit-bearing certificates. And then maybe, because, a degree can be a little bit daunting for working professionals. And like I said, it is the percentage of bachelor's degree completion rate is really low in our region. So there are lots and lots of, professionals who have some college, but have not yet taken the step to, to come to our campus to finish their degrees. So these certificates are a way to kind of attract them to come to our campus. And again, because these are small 9 to 12 credit certificates, it kind of breaks it down. It doesn't make, attaining a degree that daunting. It becomes more manageable for them. So our goal is to kind of offer these degree seeking certificates to them. And then hopefully they will make the transition to come and either, complete an MBA degree, or we also have a master's in professional studies graduate program. Hopefully they would, come and complete, and so it will help with our enrollment also. And then the other piece I wanted to talk about is a multidisciplinary degree completion program that we are currently kind of, exploring with Racine County. So this Racine County project, Dana, next slide, please. So the Racine County actually reached out to us to provide their detention workers, their correction workers, and their economic specialist employees to give them a chance to finish college. So again, it is 100% online degree, and it aligns well with the interest and career development of the county employees. And they all have some college, some credits. And so this gives us a chance to kind of, collaborate with our county to make sure that we are meeting their needs. And so, we have designated faculty support along with tutoring, advising, and success coaches. And these services will be offered on site to meet the adult learner needs. And, apart from the degree completion certificate, we are also exploring how we can use our stackable certificates and non-degree options for some of those employees who may not be ready to finish a degree right now, but they can still get something out of this experience. And the good thing is this collaboration with Racine County, they are going to be kind of, helping them with financial aid and all of that with for their employees. So we are really excited to offer this to our community. And lastly, I would like to talk about some of the challenges that we have been facing because, again, the CMC Center for Multidisciplinary Curricula, it's relatively new. It's a new center that we started last year. And again, the goal is to leverage what we already have to meet the industry needs. And, it's very much aligned with our institution's mission and strategic plan, because we want to be that hub where we can offer education and career development opportunities for our professionals to upskill, to reskill. We want to keep the talent in Southeastern Wisconsin, which will hopefully increase our economic vitality. We want to strengthen partnerships with our regional employers. We want want to show them that, we have the curriculum that is needed to meet the needs of the 21st century, industry. With all of these in mind, what we found was that, there was a little bit of kind of if I may say, siloed thinking versus institutional-wide priorities that was going on. When we went to the colleges to speak with the faculty and the dean, they thought that perhaps we were kind of, stepping on their toes. Why are we offering these programs? This belongs to the colleges. But we were, we had many meetings. We had one-on-one meetings. We went and spoke in department meetings to explain that what our goal was, which is, what I just mentioned, that, we are not stepping on anybody's toes. There is really no turf war going on here. All we are trying to do is kind of looking at wider institutional priorities. We want to be that institution where we are offering these, newer certificates. And these are all non-degree seeking, but they are credit bearing. So we actually had to kind of do a little bit of convincing to show that this is something that we are actually helping the colleges, so that the professionals, the employees who are going to come and take these certificates, hopefully in the long run, we are going to funnel them towards the colleges for seeking a graduate or an undergraduate degree. So lastly, they were convinced that it was really not so much competition that we initially came across as, but we are really trying to collaborate with our colleges to make sure that we are all kind of in this together. The ultimate goal is increasing enrollment and adding to our tuition revenue.
So you've heard about the CMC now and some of the certificates that were created within the CMC, the programs that were created to attract students in the area. Now I'm going to tell you a little more about how we support those students through pre-enrollment services, as well as once they become an enrolled student. So as part of adult student enrollment counseling, I meet with students individually, and I really just meet the students where they are and talk to them about what their goals are. Sometimes students might come to me not really knowing what their goals are, so we might engage in a little career assessment and exploration. I have access to assessments that they can take, and the assessments are very user-friendly, but if they want some additional support from me as they're looking through their options, I offer that support. Once they know how they want to focus on their career, we look at the different majors at Parkside to determine which majors might be the best route for them to reach those career goals of theirs. And as always, when looking at careers, you want to take into consideration the labor market information, because we wouldn't want students to engage in this time, effort, and money and find that there are no positions for them after they finish their education. I look at both non-credit and for-credit options with the student and help them determine which would be the best route for them. And if they're interested in the for-credit option, then I guide them through the process of applying and getting all of their application materials in. If they are a transfer student, then I can complete unofficial transfer credit evaluations. And for returning students who have stopped out of Parkside and are now returning, I can do unofficial degree audits. For the students that have been admitted, I can refer them to the appropriate offices at Parkside to help support them and help them be successful in their education. Next slide. So a couple of ways that we recruit these students that have been successful are through partnering with Re-Up and Amazon. There are, of course, many other ways, but I'm highlighting a few that we have, of course, had great success with. So we have worked with Re-Up since 2020, and they provide success coaching and engagement with the stopped out students from Parkside. And once those students become admitted, they actually help with success coaching for the enrolled students. So they help with retention. as of last month, we've had 272 students enrolled, and we've recovered 1.58 million in tuition. Amazon is another partner that we work with. They have an amazing benefit for their employees called Amazon Career Choice, in which full-time employees can earn up to $5,250 and apply that towards their education. So we have been a career choice partner since 2022. And my role in that work is I have provided on-site information sessions for their employees that are at a local distribution center in Kenosha. And I am sort of their contact person at Parkside if they have questions about their benefits, what programs might be the best fit for them. We do, again, those pre-enrollment counseling sessions. And then I guide them through the process of submitting their vouchers. So to date, we've had 73 students enrolled, and we have submitted over $900,000 in tuition for reimbursement from Amazon.
And Krista, if I can just interject with a little additional fun fact, we had some early conversations with Amazon that Krista set up for us about having on-site courses offered by Parkside at local Amazon facilities. It wasn't the right time to pursue those options, but that is something that we do plan to keep our eye on and potentially come back to if Amazon is amenable to those kinds of offerings.
We
so
did.
Lots of opportunities and possibilities with Amazon.
They did. They said they were interested, but they weren't ready. So yeah, we're keeping our eye on that. Thanks, Dana. So for the stopped out students who have earned credits at Parkside, have stopped attending, and are interested potentially in returning and finishing their degree, we didn't want the same situation that caused them to stop attending at Parkside to just reoccur when they re-enrolled at Parkside. So we convened an adult initiatives work group in 2022 to review promising practices across higher education institutions, and we recommended actions to our leadership, actions for implementation. So one of the items that we are moving forward with is a UWP 111 or 112 adult and non-traditional student seminar. We'll go into that action item in a little more detail coming up. We also created an exit survey for students in our EAB Navigate system. So many faculty at Parkside were saying, why are students leaving? We need to know why they're leaving. And so it was not a practice we had in place to know what issues students were coming across specifically at Parkside. So that exit survey was recently input into Navigate, and it's becoming a regular practice each semester to send an exit survey to students that have decided not to re-enroll at Parkside, so we can better understand what their issues are and how we can solve them for future. We also worked with our institutional research to create stopped out student and adult student dashboards to, again, learn more about the issues that our students are experiencing, learn more about that population and how we can help them best. We are moving forward with evening hours for student support offices. As I mentioned earlier, many of our students are those non-traditional students. They work, they're attending school part-time. And so they need to be able to access those student support services when they're not working or when they're not taking care of family members. We are, and this is something that we had in place before the pandemic, but because of the pandemic, we stopped offering those evening hours. So we are reinstituting that within the next few months here. Another item that we were able to move forward with was a residency policy change. Our previous policy stated that students needed to earn 30 of their final 60 credits at Parkside in order to earn their degree. And this became a barrier for many students who started at Parkside, transferred elsewhere, and were wanting to return to Parkside. They weren't able to earn their 30 of their final 60 credits at Parkside. So they ended up just needing to enroll in more classes just to get those 30 even though they may have met all of the degree requirements. So we were able to update that policy to just 30 credits needed to be earned at Parkside in order to earn their degree. And the last item that we actually completed was we reviewed and audited our graduation practices. There were actually students who have walked at graduation but didn't pass the final review, and so they didn't realize that they hadn't earned their degree. In fact, I met with someone this week who was one class short of graduating. She didn't realize that she failed her last class that she needed for her degree. And she went to apply for a promotion at work and needed her transcript and her diploma, and she didn't have it. So now she has to re-enroll, complete the class. And it's for instances like those that we updated our practices to make students more aware of how they are moving through the graduation flow, and we have the advisors more involved in communicating with the students what their requirements are and how they're progressing towards those requirements, to limit the amount of instances that I just described. So we have implemented those changes, and we have seen some success in more students being able to pass that final review for graduation.
Krista, that was wonderful. And so I will move into talking a little bit more deeply about our UWP 111-112 Adult and Non-Traditional Student Seminar that Krista set up so beautifully. We're going to be co-teaching this seminar, and we're really excited to get it off the ground. But to preface the need for this seminar a little bit, I just wanted to go back and identify a challenge that we as a group of presenters have certainly identified on our campus. And I suspect it's a challenge that many of our attendees will be familiar with as well. Because of the particularly diverse student population at Parkside, we have so many dedicated faculty and staff, and everyone is dedicated to making sure that all of our services are inclusive for as many students and as many populations as humanly possible. This is a wonderful thing. I would not suggest anything else. However, one of the challenges that that sort of blanket inclusivity creates is that when we come and suggest that perhaps certain demographics need specific resources, right? Our adult students have unique experiences. They need specific resources. They need things that aren't just for everyone, but are specifically for them. We often come up against a little bit of pushback from units who are offering versions of those kinds of programs that are meant to be inclusive and as general as possible. So the course that Krista and I proposed is meant to create a sort of solution in and of itself for our adult students. UW Parkside offers a first-year student seminar. It's a 1-credit seminar. It's actually offered in a number of iterations. Some departments offer their own versions of this seminar. Some are general. There are versions of this seminar that are actually run for 3 credits, as a gen ed. But what we thought was, if this seminar is meant to introduce students to the resources on campus and to help them acclimate so that they can persist to degree completion, to a certificate completion, we need to make sure that we're providing our adult students with the resources that are actually going to be beneficial to them. We're making these students feel heard. So recently, CARS has developed this 1-credit introductory course, and our goal is really to enhance the adult and non-traditional student experience at UW Parkside, to make it visible, to help our students feel seen and heard, and to help address their specific needs and concerns as, in many cases, returning or even new adult students. So we'll be discussing topics that are similar to the topics that are discussed in the traditional introductory seminar offered at Parkside, but with a focus on how those issues might need to be addressed separately for adults. So for instance, note-taking, reading, writing, and testing strategies our adult students often tell us that they know how to write. They know how to write emails. They know how to write reports. They know how to write things in professional capacities. What they're concerned about is how to make sure they know how to write a research paper after many, many years of not having to write that paper, right? How do we help them to apply the skills that they actually have in a very specific professional setting to an educational setting and make them feel like they actually belong in the classroom? We're going to be providing an overview of resources on campus, but specifically focusing on the kinds of resources that are tailored to our adult students on and off campus. So we want to make sure that our adult students know we have flexible degree completion programs that they can benefit from if they are struggling to schedule courses, if they're struggling to attend courses, if they have other priorities that set course times in person sort of bump up against. We want to make sure that they understand that CARS is here as a resource for them, that Krista can provide career assessments and that kind of work, that I can help them with credit for prior learning if they're coming in with a lot of professional experience that aligns with the credits that they need to seek for degree completion. And then we also want to provide just as much information as we can about as many options as possible at Parkside. So more in-depth information about those degree completion options, about majors, colleges, their own career development and career advancement. We have a really wonderful advising and career center at UW Parkside, but so much of the focus of that center is on helping people to prepare for professional careers. How do you go through a job search? How do you write a resume when you don't necessarily have a resume? What we plan to focus on is how do you adapt a resume, right? How do you look at a resume at a point where you're thinking from a mid-career perspective and decide what can fall off that resume, what you need to prioritize to get to where you need to be professionally. So we're really hoping to provide educational opportunities to help our adult and non-traditional students feel really seen and valued and help make sure that they're equipped for the courses and the educational rigor to come. Krista, I just want to ask, is there anything that you'd like to add, given that we've been working on developing this course together really closely?
Everything's good. You explained it very well.
Well, thank you. Okay, great. So
Dana,
that's
we also have our like 8 minutes at this point. I just wanted to
yes, thank you. Yep, I've got my
I
eye on
wanted
it.
to give you a time check. Okay.
I appreciate that. It never hurts. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our credit for prior learning program, just because this, I think, is one of the areas where we have the most growth potential in offering creative solutions that are tailored to the needs of our adult and non-traditional students. It's also one of the areas where we've made really great progress. And so I'm excited to share how we have been growing this program really from the ground up. As Krista Cruz mentioned earlier, credit for prior learning has existed on our campus in various forms for a number of years, but it just didn't get a lot of traction. And in centralizing this work, we've been able to push to reformulate, to start again from the ground up, to figure out what our students need, what our faculty needs, and how we can grow this to be a sustainable program as opposed to one that helps one student or two students here and there. So we've made some great progress recently. First of all, since spring of 22, which is when I stepped into the role full-time, we have developed a standardized portfolio template and rubric so that we can offer our credit for prior learning portfolios in a way that is less intensive for our faculty assessors. As all of us have indicated, there has been a bit of pushback on occasion from faculty or from administration, not I think because people aren't invested in helping students, but because there's a bit of fear, right? People don't necessarily understand what credit for prior learning is. So it's easy to assume that it might cannibalize our enrollments, right? It's easy to see that maybe we're looking for opportunities to skirt academic rigor. I think everyone in the session will understand that those are not the case. And in fact, data bears out entirely different results. But these are some of the fears that we're working with faculty to resolve. So developing the standardized portfolio template and rubric has at least given our faculty something to respond to. And then I work with them to develop, to customize the template and rubric as they desire. We've revised our Credit for Prior Learning online portfolio course to make sure that it's very student friendly, that it's really providing them the support that they need to complete their portfolio successfully, to do the reflective work that the portfolio actually requires, while giving them a sense for why. What are the important outcomes here? How can you use this information? It helps them to advocate for themselves in a lot of ways. And then we've established a more streamlined workflow for our approvals and submissions. We've also importantly adjusted our Credit for Prior Learning assessment fee so that it aligns with similar work on campus. Some of our faculty will be compensated outside of their contracts for taking on interns, right? Or for supervising internships. We wanted to make sure that Credit for Prior Learning was something that our faculty were excited to assess, that they were actually not feeling like would be a horrible burden for them to assess because they weren't being compensated appropriately. We also wanted to be mindful of how much we were asking students to pay for these opportunities. So the assessment fee is certainly a constant topic of conversation that we plan to revisit in the context of equity. But we want to make sure that our faculty are being compensated for their time, since our faculty are just as busy as many of our staff members, if not more so in a lot of certain circumstances. And then to share a quick bit of exciting news, one of our major challenges is just getting students to understand that Credit for Prior Learning is an option for them, and also identifying which demographics it's most helpful for so that we can continue to carve out our program. So we've recently been awarded a UW System Veteran and Military Connected Student Mini Grant, and we'll be using those funds to fund 5 student portfolios for veteran students. Our overall goal in that work is to identify the places where our veterans training is actually not transferring into direct credit, and then we can focus our CPL efforts in those directions. So we have some areas that we know we want to focus on moving forward. We're collaborating with other units to align our internal messaging around all of these emerging experiential learning options so that our staff and our faculty know where to direct their students when they come and share that they're coming in with certain kinds of experience that they're hoping to earn credit for. We're really prioritizing developing these non-credit to credit pathways. So from our non-credit trainings to credit-bearing options for anyone who decides to pursue a degree. We want to make that as easy and as attractive for our adult learners as possible. We're also looking into identifying where we need to define clear transfer pathways. So when students come in with certain kinds of credit that isn't transferring in directly, are there ways that we can use CPL to bolster, right? Can we use CPL as a stopgap? They have 2/3 of an intro to computer science class. Can we provide a standardized assessment or a portfolio to help them earn their credit to, again, boost our enrollments? And then finally, we're really hoping to shift from Credit for Prior Learning as contingent upon individual instructors who may be very supportive of the program to contingent on courses themselves. So we're hoping to identify specific courses in the catalog that we can advertise as CPL friendly, and then develop standardized portfolios or exams with our departments, with our faculty, so that students know that this is an available option for them. So Mita, just really quickly, because I know we're nearing the end of our time, I'm hoping that we can share briefly some of the ways that you have incorporated Credit for Prior Learning on a micro level in your courses. So for our attendees who are maybe interested in starting a program, but know that that's a big haul, where can you start? Where are some small ways to incorporate Credit for Prior Learning?
Right. So I'll be really quick. In 1 minute, I will mention that, I have made use of our portfolio template and the rubric that Dana Roders and her office has created. And basically what we have done is, or I have done is, it is specific enough to make sure that students are meeting the course competencies, but it is also general, meaning that they also have the opportunity to showcase the skills in creative ways. So, data analytics, as you all know, it is something, it's up and coming, it's everywhere. So, adult learners are coming in with data analytics skills that they are actually using in their workplace. So I have created assignments where they are able to meet specific course competency requirements, but then I also give them enough open-ended questions so that they can use their creative ways to kind of show that they, and more often than not, they actually go above and beyond to show how well they are equipped. And so it has been a success story for us.
Thank you, Mita, so much. And thank you for doing that work. Just I'll take every opportunity to thank you for incorporating CPL. So where I think we will end, because we want to make sure that we're not sending you late into your next sessions, is with the understanding that we have indicated a few directions for future growth for our work that we thought might be relevant to all of you. So we will share the slides from this presentation. They will be available on the app for you. We've also shared a flyer for the graduate certificates that Mita talked about earlier, in case you're interested in learning more information about what those certificates entail. And I'll also mention that we've added a slide with some closing questions or practices for reflection for you. So if you're not sure where to get started, right, these are some questions that you can take away, that you can think about to help yourselves take that first step, or maybe the third, or maybe 12th step towards integrating some of these practices at your own institution. But we really want to thank you so much for your time and attention, for your wonderful feedback and questions in the chat. We're very grateful to have you here, and please do not hesitate to contact any of us or all of us to continue the conversation. We've really meant to just give you an overview of what we've been doing and maybe some suggestions for solutions. But if you'd like to talk more about what you're doing at your own institutions or how we can collaborate, we're very open to those conversations. So thank you all so much for your time, and thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.